everybody. Cheers. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another episode of Trades Lady Happy Hour, where each week we highlight another incredible woman in the trades. I got to thank our sponsor for these happy hours, Drive Time, who is helping to continue to make these possible and hopefully expanding them a little more in the future. So I want to thank them. I also want to thank all of you guys for tuning in so regularly to check out all of these amazing women, and for sending all the recommendations that you have for more women that I need to meet and get to know. These have been a ton of fun to do. For anybody who's new here, Trades Lady Happy Hour is a time to really celebrate women in the trades. You know, we're generally a very small minority in the trades, and there's a handful of folks who are kind of known for being on TV. But there's so many more amazing women out there who are seriously kicking butt in the trades and who deserve some recognition and support as well. So that's what these happy hours are all about. And hopefully we can see those numbers start to go up a little bit and we won't be such a minority. But without further ado, I want to introduce you to tonight's guest, the lovely Alex Burton. I have had the privilege of knowing Alex for many years now. We initially met when she was still in high school, and she's just been on an incredible journey ever since. We've stayed in touch throughout the years, and I've gotten to really know and love and adore her. So I'm excited that she's joining me tonight. Hopefully she's in the room already. I'm going to go ahead and try to see if she's here and invite her to the party. There she is. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. It's been too long since what, like SEMA? That feels like forever ago.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
How are we in March already?
I know, it's been going by so quickly.
So fast, so fast. So I want all the updates on where you're at and what's going on and what's new since we last talked, but I want to go back in time first, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
So tell everybody how we first met and what that experience, not meeting me, but the experience of your road trip was like, and what was that all about?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I was enrolled into UTI, so I knew that I wanted to go in the auto or diesel. I think I was enrolled in both at the time. And I was kind of doing like an online class, and my UTI, the sponsor here, had posted a video, and it was like, oh, apply to go to this road trip nation, and if you get accepted, then you get to go, kind of around the world or US and go interview auto and diesel mechanics. So I emailed my UTI sponsor here, and I'm like, hey, like, what are the rules about this? I'm like, I know I'm not going to get it, but I'm just going to apply for it. And I actually ended up getting it, and they did like a whole bunch of interviews. So it was really fun. I got to go fly down to California, and I met these two other guys that were in about the same boat as me. And then we went to California, Arizona, where I met you, and then to Texas, and actually went to this 4x4 place in California, and I got to see this whole shop, and they had diesels and everything there, and I'm like, this is what I want. I'm like, I want to be in this atmosphere. And I called up my UTI sponsor here, and I was like, change my field, I'm doing diesel, and I'm going to the California location, and I'm like, this is happening. So
I
that
love
kind
it.
of sent my foot into the door.
Yeah, I love that. So tell us about this road trip nation, like this whole concept, because I think like I'd never heard of it before I met you and the rest of the other guys that were out on that with you. Like the whole concept of it, I'd never heard of. I'm sure some folks in the audience have never heard of it. What's the whole concept of it?
So Road Trip Nation itself, so it's an organization, and they have these green RVs that they actually buy, and they paint them from like house paint and decorate, and they choose different career fields and pick out people that are interested in them, take them on a road trip, then they go and interview people and take videos and ask them, how did they get where they're at? What's their story? And then they actually have high schools that they work with in California. From last time I heard, there might be more now.
Right.
That they can students can pick out what career field they think that they want to go down, and they can watch interviews of people and how they got there and if they'd be interested in it and like what steps to take.
I freaking love it. I think it's such an awesome program. I wish that existed when I was a kid. Like, just such an incredible concept to be able to go and like actually meet people and talk to them and figure out like, is this actually what I want to do? And they have like
Yeah.
a whole, and this is not a commercial for them, by the way. I just think it's really awesome. They're not a sponsor. This is not, but they have like a database of interviews from all of the ones that they've done over the years, don't they? On
Yeah,
their
so I
website.
think that's what they can get to. So high schoolers can go into that database and choose what career type, and then they have a whole bunch of interviews for that one. So the one that I went on was technicians, but they have everything from medical fields to teachers to whatever you can think of.
I love it. So cool. So what was it about the diesel shop that made you like, yes, this is it?
So it was actually more of like the environment. So for me, I have kind of grown up in like high school where I've always loved trucks, I've loved pickups, and then I ended up going to the shop in California and it was only 4x4s. And just the atmosphere and the people, like I sat down and talked to them, like they were all friendly. Um, and then everything was lifted and I was like, well, this is kind of like at home, but like 10 times better. And then I ended up looking and like I actually went home and like went to shops around me and I'm like, well, what are you looking for? And then I actually went into school and I thought I was only going to be working on pickups. I'm like, that's all I want to do. I want to just do diesel side pickups. Then I ended up working on semis in school and fell in love with them. And I'm like,
Nice.
apparently I'm doing heavy duty now.
I love it. Do you feel like having that opportunity when you were younger to go out and check all these different environments out, do you feel like that really influenced the path that you took?
Oh yeah, definitely. At the time I knew that I wanted to be a technician. I had no idea what field, what line of work. Um, and by doing that and getting that opportunity, I got a kind of a taste of what everything was going to be like, and I got to kind of figure it out by that about
Yeah.
what I wanted to do.
I love that. What made you interested in, like, where did you decide I want to be a technician? Before you decided diesel, what was that point when you decided, yes, this is the career path that I want to go on before you signed up for UTI? Like, what brought you to that place?
So actually, my stepdad, he is kind of a hobby hoarder. I love him, but he has 100 different projects and he never really finishes them. Or
Did you
it's
say a
rare he
hobby
does.
hoarder? Hobby
Yes.
hoarder. I love that. That's, I feel like I found my description. That's awesome.
And so I kind of got used to him working in the garage and like helping him up, pretty much holding the flashlight while he yells, you know how it is.
Yep.
And then, yeah, and then I ended up getting my first pickup truck when I was 16. My mom gave it to me. And
Nice.
then just working on that and figuring out how things work and kind of went from there.
Nice. It just fit. You were like, yes, this is awesome. I want to do more of this.
Yes.
What do you like most about it? What is it that kind of gets you going?
For me, I mean, I'm still kind of new into the industry. I'm learning and I love to learn things. And I feel, especially for diesel, everything is growing and there's something new I can learn every single day. And so for me, I thrive on everything is changing, everything gets updated, and I get to learn all that.
Yeah. How was going to UTI for you?
It was good. I really liked it. Um, it definitely was more of, you learn your basics and then you get out there and you get to work. And I love that factor because for me, I'm definitely a hands-on person and I do not do good doing like book work and all that.
Yeah. How long of a program was it for diesel?
So the diesel program was 10 months, and
Okay.
then I did that in California, and then I went to Texas and I did the Cummins program associated with UTI, and then got all of my Cummins certifications there, and then that was 3 months.
Nice. Okay, so this is a question I get asked often, and I'm curious your take on it. There's a lot of folks who go to UTI or other technical schools, and they ask, like, are those graduate programs worth it? That extra time, the extra money in some cases. Was it worth it for you to go to the graduate program with Cummins?
Yes. So I actually ended up getting my job with Cummins because I had the certifications, and I would have never gotten any of those that quickly other than UTI. So I love that factor because usually Cummins won't hire unless you have 5 years of
Oh,
experience
really?
or similar, or unless you have their certifications. So that kind of gave me a fast forward. And then I liked the main part about how you could go straight to a job. Like it took less than a year, and then I could go to school, I can get that over with, and then I'm working and I'm making, a pretty good salary starting wise.
Yeah.
And to me, I like that better because even I have student loans, but then I got to work right away versus going to school for 4 years and then you
Right.
still have student loans, but then you still can't, pay them off without a job.
Right. And then people still won't hire you because you don't have experience.
Yeah.
You froze for a second there, but you're back. What you drinking tonight?
I am actually drinking rum and Coke. I have the girl gang glass, but it's hard to see.
Through the rum and the Coke.
Yeah.
That's all right. Cheers to that. I love it. Okay, so you get out of school, and you go and you get your first job as a result. Are you still at the same? You're not at the same place that you got the initial job at, right? Or are you?
No, no. So I ended up working at Packard Technical Center for 2 years right out of school.
What is that?
I graduated and came home, and then I was kind of picky about where I wanted to, and it worked out so good because I got the job I wanted. Um, but it was really cool. So Packard, it's a testing center. So Packard owns um, Peterbilt and Kentworth semi trucks,
Okay,
and then we have a testing center location over here where they test their brand new trucks pretty much to see they want to see what breaks.
nice. So you got to see like all the brand new stuff before everybody else saw it.
Yeah, so at the time they were working on like 2021 trucks, and then they have like a test track there, and then they would pretty much just drive them in circles and be like, we just want to break them and see what breaks and then fix it.
Did you get to drive them until they broke, or were you on the other end just working on fixing them?
I was on the other end. It was actually pretty cool to watch though, but
I
they
bet.
were like 24 hours. And then it was so weird because like around here you never see it. So semi trucks for the testing center, they had to have a load. So it was literally like 9 or 10 cement blocks on trailers.
All right.
And so we got to load them. And then it's weird. You go to Mount Vernon over here and they're just driving around in circles all the time running. Like, oh yeah, that's
Do
Pat
they
Carr over there.
do they at least switch direction, or is it the same circle the whole time?
Pretty much the same. So they have different routes, but yeah, they're running in the same circle until
All
their
right.
shift's over. Yeah.
That's insane. All right.
Yeah.
So you got to like then inspect them and figure out what was breaking and what was going on with them, right?
Yeah, so my job at the time was kind of to keep them going. So if something were to fail, like look them over. I worked the night shift, so it was pretty much just me. And then just keep them running. And then if not, then they had like engineers on the place or testing center. And then in the morning, I would go and talk to them, and they want to know exactly what's wrong and what
So you were like fresh out of school and they're putting you in a position where you're the only person on at night shift. Was that crazy to you? Like how was that for you being so brand new and still learning stuff, as you went?
happened. It was very overwhelming, but it actually like kind of grew to me. Like it made me like a stronger technician per se, and trying to figure out stuff by myself. It actually worked out because when I went to Cummins, I was actually the only person in shop when I got hired there.
Oh wow.
And so I've actually kind of worked by myself until this last week we just hired people.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So with the new job with Cummins, you've been working by yourself for how long?
Since last April.
Oh my gosh. And they're just now adding somebody. That's kind of crazy to me. Like, so you're just having to learn it all yourself and figure it out as you go.
Yeah, they have like the field techs that are there, but like they kind of run in and out. Like obviously they're in the field, so I never get to see them. So if I like need like a hard question, I could call them. But yeah, it's been a lot of learning myself so far, but it's kind of worked out. Haven't had that much mistakes happen.
I mean, we all have them, so there's no shame in that. If you have, I mean,
Yeah.
that's insane and so admirable that you're doing that without really having day-to-day mentors with you. Do you have people there who you feel like you can go to? Do you have any mentors within the shop?
Yeah, so there was one, he's a field tech and his name's Trey, and I really relied on him for a while, but we actually just hired like a shop foreman this last Monday, and so he is actually going to be kind of like mentoring me more and helping me out whenever I need it.
Awesome. What
So
what
that'll be
areas are what areas are you hoping to do more in or learn more about? Like you have an area you want to specialize in more or
so I love doing the engine side, and that's pretty much all we do right now is just the Cummins engine. But then I definitely would love to specialize more in like troubleshooting and, following down that road and, being an advanced tech one day or something like that. Um, but right now it's just more of a learning of, how to get there.
yeah.
Because right now it's kind of, we have like quick server program that we get to use, and then that kind of helps us go down a route, but then can also lead us down like, rabbit holes. So just finding which way has been my main struggle.
Yeah, that never happens. I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I love how everybody's like, "Oh, it's easy. You just follow the diagnostic trouble tree and you plug in your computer and it's fine, right?" Like,
Well, yeah.
yeah, it's easy. It's magic, right?
Well, yeah, especially like it leads to something that's not even on there, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm glad I went down these 1,200 steps and it didn't even lead me to the issue.
Right. And then it just goes back to square one. Do you
Yeah.
feel like you use like your education at U from UTI and from Cummins, like do you rely on that education often? Like I feel like people kind of poo-poo on the technical schools quite a bit in that they say they don't really prepare people for the real world, or there isn't really like it's more basic learning, not more specific learning, and there's all this like, oh, they graduate from school but they still don't know anything. Do you feel like that education that you had is stuff that you still like find yourself going back to as you figure stuff out by yourself in the shop? Like, is that useful for you?
Yeah, I feel like, especially now, I mean, UTI, they teach you all the basics, everything like that, but I'm actually now connecting the dots. So I
That
feel
makes
like, yeah,
sense.
you learn all this, but then, like, obviously, I'm not going to remember all of it until I start working on something. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember learning about that one time. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, I understand how this goes on this vehicle or how this applies. But it's definitely, I feel like it takes a while. Like, you're
Yeah.
going to actually have to do it. And then you're like, okay, like, now I remember. Like, that's what they actually were talking about in that class.
Right. I love the way you say that, connecting the dots, because that's so true, right? It's like we learn these different systems and these different parts and pieces, and then when you get out and you can actually touch it and work with it, it's like, oh, got it. Makes more sense. I like that. Sorry, my fat cat here is deciding to try to push the tripod all over the place. I apologize. um, okay, so you've been at Cummins now for since last year, mid last year. You're also last time we talked, you were starting to do welding. Is that still happening? Are you still getting to do some of that?
Yeah, I more do it at home.
Okay.
So that was the nice thing about my last job is I actually learned how to weld doing that. working there. And then I actually had jobs that I got to do it on, which I love doing that. But my new job, there isn't really any welding happening. But I
Boo.
actually got a welder, and so I've been trying to do stuff at home. I have to like make the time now because if I don't make the time, then there is no time pretty much.
Right. Yeah. I know that feeling. You're not still on
Yeah.
night shift though, are you?
No, I am on days now,
Nice.
thankfully. I couldn't do that anymore.
I don't know how you did it at all, girl. I can't even imagine doing night shift. That would just screw with me. I give you mad props for doing it for as long as you did. It's
Yeah,
insane.
no, it definitely, I don't recommend it unless you have to. Yeah.
I love it. So you keep coming back to these all-female builds at in Phoenix, which I love because I get to see you like each step of the way. Um, why do you keep coming back?
Well, I mean, other than the fact that I love seeing you, I
That's a
actually
good
love
reason.
doing,
I feel the same way about you.
I actually just love meeting new people. I mean, the builds are fun, don't get me wrong, but my favorite part is going there and meeting a whole bunch of new girls, no matter what their experience is, and relating with them.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me, I'm the only girl in my shop, and so all I hear is guy talk pretty much,
Right.
and that gets very old. And so I love seeing other girls, especially who work in the industry, and then we get to kind of bond over that. And I've made actually quite a few friendships from that. And I just love it. I wish more people would do something like that. It doesn't have to be a build, but just get
Right.
togethers or something. Like, it just never happens.
Yeah. It's so hard to explain to people like to men, not all men. There's a lot of wonderful men out there. Lots and lots of them. But it's like hard to explain that power of connecting with other female technicians, like why that's so important and what we get out of that. Like how has meeting other female techs like impacted you and why does that matter?
I think for me, especially, like, I've only had one other female tech that I've worked with here, and I feel like for me, when you work with them or see them or communicate, they're way better at understanding. Like, for me, I feel like, okay, I go and ask a guy a question and I'm like, this might be a dumb question, but I'm just gonna ask you. Like, but then if I feel like a female for I feel like there's no judgment and like we can talk about it, and I don't know. It's just different to relate on both sides. And then I love seeing the female techs because then we get to bond, we can talk about everything and, have something in common where it's very different to work in the field. Not as a bad thing or a
Sure.
good thing, but you kind of like have to have, some toughness in you. And it's amazing. I love working in it, but it's definitely hard.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see other females who are in it and you can relate and just have someone there for you that you can call and just rant or talk about, the struggles going on in your shop that maybe you don't feel comfortable with a guy.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. What are some of the challenges you've experienced coming up this far?
Um, I think work-wise, challenges have been very hard. Obviously, working by myself, just because I'm having to learn, engines that I've never seen before or troubleshooting. Um, it has been, a couple times being a female in the industry, it's been hard to overcome people, or I have customers that come in and they're like, well, you're not the tech. Like, I don't want you working on my stuff. Like, you're a female. Like, how do you know anything? Or even go on to anything like a parts department and they're like, oh, well, let me just explain to you where this goes. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, well, I ordered the part and I'm going to be working on it, but okay.
But go ahead, tell me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you find at the shop is it more the customers or the your fellow coworkers or management? or both?
It's definitely some of the customers. I have actually had really good luck with working with guys in my shops that they've been very like, if you need any help, let me know. Very friendly and everything like that.
Nice.
Um, but I have had customers come through that are just dropping off their vehicle or just trying to explain something. And I'm like, okay, like, I understand that. Like, you have to be very patient and just pretend like you don't know and just agree with them pretty much. It sucks, but it's just what happens.
I was gonna ask you how you handled that, but you just answered. Just agree and pretend you don't know. That's awesome. Just let them think that they're educating you, right?
Yes. Be like,
I
I
love
didn't get hired here for any reason. I just stand around and do nothing. Let me
Well,
work on your view.
isn't that what
Yeah.
we do? I mean, come on. I love it. Do you ever get like because you're working on big stuff, right? This isn't you're not working on a small car. You are working on big equipment, heavy equipment. Um, do you do you get those comments from people about the heaviness of it? How can you handle it as a girl? That kind of stuff.
Yes, I have in the past. Or I've had guys that they don't purposely do it, but they're like, just let me help you. Like, I got this. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, there's a tool for everything that picks up stuff. So I'm like, I think I can handle it myself.
That is by far my favorite. When you're like, there is a tool for this, like
Yeah.
this is nobody should be lifting transmissions by themselves. Nobody should be doing that, especially on heavy equipment. Like, use the tools and we're all gonna be okay.
Oh yeah, especially my last job because I try to like look at stuff for olderness wise. Like I don't want to be on the concrete on my knees. Like I want to survive being a tech. Like, try not to lift heavy stuff with my back. Common
Right.
sense that people don't have. And my last job, especially, I did brakes on trailers, and the drums on those are heavy. And
I
all the
bet.
guys are like, I'll pick it up, I'll throw it on. And I'm like, well, why don't I just use the jack that's meant for this that we have? And they're like, why would you ever do that? I, I'm like, I know it's so weird to use a tool that what it's meant to do for.
Right? That's such a crazy concept. My goodness. There's this interesting thing I feel that happens, like there's this stubbornness or this pride in like doing it the hard way, right? Like not not going about things the smart way, but doing it the hard way. It's like this badge of honor. Like, I lifted that big heavy thing and put it down again. um, and then they're the same ones complaining that they have back pain when they're older.
Oh yeah, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm at 30 and I can't be a tech anymore because I have so many issues. And I'm like, I wonder why. Like, see that one coming.
I love it. I've always been curious though. So, because I've never worked on anything that big. Like, I work on little stuff. Every car I've owned has been a little car. Every car I work on, like SUVs are the biggest cars I work on. You know what I mean? Um, like, so are there specific jacks for doing like big drums like that? I wouldn't even know.
Um, so depending on the job, there can be like dollies specified for some things, or like there is like drum carts that you can get, or there's tire jacks. Kind of depends on what shop you go to. For the one I'm at, because we do engines, we pretty much just have regular tranny jacks or regular jacks, but they're just like twice the size.
Right. Right. Can support twice the load. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the most complicated or challenging job you've taken on? Or the one that
Um,
kicked your butt the most?
so I have to say, this was one of my worst mistakes I've done so far.
Okay.
We had a fire truck come in, and we have them come in frequently, and I think it needed a new cylinder head, and it needed gear housing removed and sealed again.
Okay.
And that was just a pain in the butt just because the fire trucks, the cabs like lift up
Okay.
And so you have to work around them. And so when you're in the front, you're literally like crawling over the engine and trying to get to the front. And then when I was putting it all back together, I actually did the job okay. I just put too much silicone on,
Oh
and then
no.
it plugged some stuff up, and then that was not very good. And then we ended up redoing it.
Okay.
But then I learned there is such a thing as too much silicone for seals.
Cheers to that. Can we like say that again for the
Yes.
people in the back? Like there is such a thing as too much silicone. You're not gonna make that mistake
Yes.
again though, are you?
No. I'm
Okay.
like, okay, I put in too much and I put in too little, and I'm like, now I should have know the happy medium
Right. I love that. And I appreciate you sharing that. I feel like, you and I have had this conversation before. Like sometimes we don't publicly share our mistakes because, we don't want to show that we've made mistakes, but I love it because we all make mistakes. And I'm sure every single person watching this, self included, has had those situations where we use too much or too little of something. And so I applaud you sharing that. Thank you. And I see it
now.
all the time, don't you? Like, I feel like I see people all the time, like, lathering it up with the silicone. Like, you don't need that much.
Yes, no, well, and so I did a front cover like a month ago, and I put one corner, I didn't put enough of it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that mistake again, and I'm just going to put double the amount. And yes, that is way too much. You do not need double the amount.
Okay, so I'll share with you a story just to like commiserate with you on this one. I just recently learned how to use panel bond for the first time. Never used panel bond. Have you used this before? It's
Uh-uh.
like it's like in like collision work and body work, metal work, whatever, where you like take two pieces of metal and you put this stuff in between it and you clamp it down and it seals it, right? It bonds it together. It's a lot of like the newer cars, they use it. Um, there's like not a lot of welding in newer cars. So a lot of it is all panel bond. So I was using it for the first time and I'm putting it on and the girl, one of the girls that I'm with who's used it before, she was like, um, that's a lot. I'm like, I don't know. I had lathered on so much of this panel bond. It was like so thick. She's like, all of that's going to squeeze out. You realize that. And I'm like, oh, I guess so. Didn't know. I must have used an entire tube of panel bond on like not a large area to be using an entire tube.
Well,
But it
that's the
also,
thing too,
yeah.
is like you don't know. You don't know until you do it.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep. And learning alone, I'm sure you've had to deal with lots of that, having to just learn from your own mistakes and figure it out as you go.
Yes, I have turned like 1 hour jobs into five, and I'm like, okay, I won't be doing that next time. Let me tell you what.
Right. Are you on flat rate? Do they do flat rate in the diesel truck world, or is it hourly?
Um, so I'm hourly. They do flat rate, but I don't
Okay.
think I could do it. I would not survive in that world right now.
Well, you give yourself a couple of years, you'll be good.
Yeah. Well, no, and I do think flat rate is great, but you definitely have to be specialized in something or have the experience so you know how to do it, what's quicker and better. But they do have flat rate, like I think like especially companies that are quick repair or like repair on the go and stuff like that. I know they do flat rate, but it kind of depends on the shop. Mine is just hourly, which I love.
For
I'm
everybody
fine.
or just for you?
No, everyone.
Okay, nice. So is it like an
Yeah.
independent service center or is it Cummins proper?
So it's Cummins proper. Um, the shop I'm at is a small one, so it's the only like Northwest one in Washington.
Okay.
And then you go down more south, and then there's bigger ones. But I love it better because, I mess up or something. I don't have eyes watching me 24/7, so it's a little nicer. I
That
don't
is a
have
little
the stress
nicer.
of someone like breathing down my neck.
Right? That I feel like that
Yeah.
makes it worse. Right? Making the mistake is one thing, but when you have like a bunch of eyes on you, like waiting for you to make that mistake, or like laugh at you when you do make a mistake. Um,
Yeah.
that's worse than the mistake itself. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the nice thing is the only person usually laughing at me is me. So it's okay. Yeah.
I hope you're not laughing at yourself too much. You're freaking fantastic.
I try not to, but then like something funny happens or like something happens like out of nowhere and I'm like, did anyone see that? And I'm like, oh no, it was just me. I'm like, I'm not even looking around too, like I'm expecting someone to see it and I'm like, oh, I guess not. Nope, never
Right?
mind.
Like the little kid who falls in the playground and looks up to see if anybody noticed him fall. And then if somebody
Yeah.
did, then they start crying. So the field techs, is that like the next step for you, or are they like pretty much same level, just doing it in the shop versus doing it on the field? Like, is that the next advancement for you?
I don't think it's gonna be for me just because I don't want to work in Washington weather.
That's
Um,
fair.
but it definitely could be. You have to be pretty advanced to be in the field tech because they're pretty much out on their own. Like you're going somewhere and you need to figure it out, and if you can't figure it out, well, that sucks. But it's like you don't have a lot of other options like you can look to or call someone or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
Whereas the in shop, it's like, okay, well, I don't know something, then I can just ask someone later, or there's
right,
not someone like a customer staring at you like, what's wrong? Can you fix it now?
right. Do you feel like you'd like to do that at some point if you're not in Washington weather?
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think I really love the comfort of the shop, just of having all the tools available. I have all the shop tools versus you can get to a job in the field service and you might be doing some sketchy stuff per se where it's like, okay, well, I don't have this jack, but we can make this work. Like this is gonna happen. Like,
oh, come on, we do that all the time at Girl Gang.
yeah,
What if we rig
yeah.
this to this? I love it. So what is your next step? Where do you hope to be in the next 5 years?
Um,
What's next for you,
Probably. Well, I'd
Elizabeth?
love to stay where I'm at. I'd love to. Hopefully, as long as I don't get fired or anything like that. Never know. I'd never know.
Like, I mean,
One day they might
I
get tired
appreciate
of me.
that.
Yeah. I'd really just love to build my knowledge. I would love to be like an advanced technical, like a troubleshooting person, where if you get stuck, it's someone to call and actually have like good advice, because it's hit or miss on them. But I
Yeah,
would eventually love to do that, but I know I have a long time until then.
that's all right. You're young. You're young. You've got all the time.
Yeah.
Do they have continuing classes? Does Cummins have like advanced classes that you can kind of keep going back to?
So I have most of the programs, but I can take like refresher classes if I wanted to. And then if they were to have like new engines come out, or they have different, like they have the propane engines, and then they're coming out with the like electric things are coming out. So like we have electric buses now
Nice.
that
Have you
are
gotten to
running.
work on them?
I have not. So you actually, that is one thing. So you have to be certified in them. So that would be like a continuing class.
Okay.
But we have one guy at my shop that is, and so I get to see him work on its electric school bus
Oh,
that
wow.
comes in and it's so quiet. Like you don't even know it's running. It's so weird.
That's so crazy. That's all right. How do you feel about, I mean, not necessarily from like a political and whatnot perspective, but how do you feel about the new electric and different types of fuel? Like, how do you feel about those things coming out?
Um, I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's per se like a long term, like everything will go to that. Because I can't imagine like what happens if you get stuck in traffic, what happens like
For
I
real.
think about that all the time. I'm like, what if you're charged up but only like halfway and you get stuck in traffic? I'm like, what are you
Right.
gonna do if you just die? Like I'm like, that would suck.
I mean, that's a fair question. Do they have like a large range on those buses? Can they go for a long time?
I actually don't know. So we only have one right now that's in
Okay.
our area. So I think it just came out in the last year. So it's
Oh,
been
nice.
one of those, they're driving it and then we're figuring out what's going on and what's going
Okay.
wrong.
Cool.
Um,
Are you are
but
you excited to learn about them, or is it a little
I would love to learn about them, but I also like don't want to work on them full time.
okay?
Like I think working on one every once in a while will be great and learning about them would be awesome, but it's not something that I would want every day in the shop. That's all there is electric trucks now.
Yeah,
But we'll see how the next 10 years go
I
because I
know.
know that they're all coming out.
I know. It's going to be so crazy. I feel like these next like 10 years, you're right, like 10 to 15 years is going to be a really, really interesting time to kind of see how things play out. And just as a technician, like, I don't know, it's kind of crazy because all this new stuff is coming out. We still need to know the old stuff because those aren't going away, right? The gas engines, the diesel engines, like, they're not going away, but there's all this new stuff coming out, and we have to know all of the things.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a learning experience for everyone.
Yes. How do the older guys that you work with, are they more resistant to it, or are they equally interested, or
Um, Equally-ish. So I don't really have any old guys in my shop. I think the oldest, he's probably like maybe 40.
okay, that's not old.
Um, Ish, yeah, yeah. He's old, but he's not like the grumpy old guy, you know.
That's good.
That's always easily everyone's shop.
He's younger than I am, so he's not that old. But we'll forgive you because you're a bebe still. Everybody feels older than you, I'm sure, at this point. Are you gonna stay in Washington, or are you gonna travel out, move somewhere else? What do you think?
Um, I haven't decided yet. This state is kind of, in my opinion, going down, and the prices are going so up. But then I have my family here, and I'm like, can we just all up and leave? Like, can we just, every one of us, just like go somewhere
Right?
else? Yeah,
I can relate to that. Like, I don't necessarily love Phoenix, but I love my people. So if I could like gather up all of my people and just lift us up and move somewhere else, I would totally do it in a heartbeat.
yeah, like that would be wonderful. Because like,
Right?
if we all moved together, then there would be nothing holding me back here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. If you could like work on, if there's like one vehicle that you could work on that you haven't gotten a chance to, what would it be?
Um, I have actually, so the Cummins side, they have a marine side that I would love to. I wouldn't probably want to work on it full time, but I wouldn't mind working on a couple.
Yeah.
Like I know here we have a lot of ferries that go back and forth that have
Okay.
the Cummins in them. And
Yeah.
so we have a marine guy that goes back and forth and works on that.
Oh,
So I think
cool.
that'd be so cool, especially how huge they have to be. I can't imagine.
Yeah. They're insane. Some of the like the big boat. I got to see a engine room on a like cruise ship. It's crazy. Like everything is so massive. It's just blows your mind. I don't know that I'd want to work on them, but I'd love to like learn a little bit more and maybe work on them once. I don't know that I'd want to do it
Yeah.
regularly though.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, I would love to maybe work on them here and there, but I don't know if I could do that full time. Kind of like the electric bus situation.
Right. Something new to learn, and that's about it. All right. Fair
Yeah.
enough. How about within working on the vehicles that you do? Is there anything that you don't like about working on them? Like your least favorite type of job to do?
So my least favorite would be RVs.
Okay, why?
Just space wise. We don't have like a Pacific RV tech at my shop, but we do, they come in for oil changes or they have like a recall or small stuff like that. They'll come in and I just hate them with a passion. Like,
Oh my gosh. I hope Adrian isn't on here listening. You've met Adrian, I think, at the shop. She's an RV technician. I hope she's not listening right now. Hey, to
like
each their own.
I give power to whoever works on them because I could not ever. Like you have to fit in the corners that you wouldn't think that you could fit in, but you're fitting in them because that's all you got. Like,
All right. Fair enough. No RVs for Alex. Got it. Any particular type of work other like specifically, do you like electrical more than engine or brakes or suspension? Any particular areas that you like more than others?
I have to say the mechanical wise of just the engine of tearing apart and putting back together
Yeah.
if it's overhaul or something. I just think for me, I haven't done them so much. So I just love the fact of when I do it, it's my favorite part.
That's awesome.
Troubleshooting side, I feel like I would love the electrical side, but it doesn't love me back yet. We're still learning. So,
It doesn't love me back yet. All right. But I appreciate that you say yet because I know you will conquer it. Because I have not seen anything that you have not been able to conquer thus far.
thank you.
You are very welcome. It's been really fun getting to like see you at the start of your career, like to where you're at now. It's been it's been such a I feel so privileged to get to see like the journey that you've been on. It's been really neat. You have just like leaps and bounds. Just every time I see you, you're like 100 times better. It's awesome.
Yeah, I never would have guessed, like looking back in high school, that I would be where I'm at now. And it's kind of awesome, I feel like, in my eyes, where like all the opportunities I've gotten and, meeting you and getting to do, the builds and meeting all these new people and females and getting relationships in the industry that I never thought I would have ever been able to.
Well, you've been the one doing the work and making it happen. So give your give yourself a pat on the back for that. You've been working your butt off and it's paying off. We're You got a lot of ladies who are cheering for you and who are very proud of you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, what else should we talk about? What do you do? What do you do outside of work? What are your other hobbies?
So I actually go to like the Oregon Dunes. My whole family, we are all into like side by sides and quads and all of that fun stuff. And so that's actually that's one of the parts that made me get into mechanic wise is I had a quad and I had stomped on the shifter so hard that I broke it off and learned not to stomp and just to gently tap now. But in order to change in
Love
order
you.
to change the shifter, you had to take apart that whole motor. And
Okay.
that was definitely a fun experience of tightening two bolts too much till they break off, and then you have to fix them. And that was definitely the start of loving engines and also having a hate side to them too.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
It's
I mean,
always
I
a
feel
love
like
hate one.
right. Oh, absolutely. I feel like a lot of people would have been intimidated or discouraged by that, right? Have a problem, try to fix it, have more issues trying to fix it. What what is it that gave you that like drive and that push or that tenacity to just like keep going, keep figuring it out, like not let that discourage you?
I think for me, the end of when you actually fix something and it's like finished and done correctly, especially for like the stuff that I have. So like my quad, when I redid it all, it was okay, I get to go to the dunes now. And then like this is actually fixed, like it's running great. Like it's just the satisfaction of doing something and even though you had 100 different mistakes, it came out like amazing. Especially for me, I have a couple trucks at home and they are also both broken right now.
So you're following your
Um,
father's footsteps, stepfather, excuse me.
yes. Yes. My newest, I have a '06 Chevy Duramax, and it needs all new injectors. And at
Okay.
this rate, everything has broke on it, so I might be a Duramax mechanic after this.
It's the best way to learn. I've become a Volvo technician throughout this whole build, so yeah, best way to do it.
Definitely not on purpose, but then you end up, you're like, okay, well, at this rate, everything's broke, but everything's new now, so it's okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Anybody out there, Shonda, who likes to give me a hard time for having so many broken vehicles, I'm not the only one.
We're all out there.
We really
Eventually it'll
are.
get fixed.
Exactly. Once we're retired, probably, right?
Yeah. I mean, it looks good sitting there too, so
Right.
at least I'm
Exactly.
looking at it.
And this is why I love you, Alex. Because you speak my language. What are your other project trucks?
So I have an '86 Chevy K20.
Nice.
Um, I actually got it from my dad, and he had some mechanic work on it, do a crappy job, and has never ran right.
Oh no.
And so it's also, at this rate, I'm just going to be fixing Chevys for a living. Um,
There's a
but
joke there. Poor Chevy
uh,
guys.
so it's been, I fix it, I go on a couple rides, and then something else is broken. But at this rate, it's halfway, everything's replaced. So it's halfway new now.
Okay. Very nice.
Um, but that kind of comes back to the point of I love like when I fix something, and then for like I love so my '86 truck I just take to car shows or I just drive around town. Like it's not a daily, but it's just the joy of actually like cruising and have your family in the truck and crank up the music. And when it actually isn't raining in Washington, you can enjoy the sun.
On those like 3 days out of the year.
Yeah. Those 3 days it might be running though. So I have a good chance. I just have to get those 3 days out of the year to have it running.
We get the truck running and the sky's clear all at the same time while the moon is in the second quarter of the sky, right? Like all the things have to line up. Do you have a dream vehicle that you'd like to have or a dream truck?
Um, I have to say the truck that I have, my '86 Chevy, I would just love if it had everything like a brand new engine and
Right.
everything to it.
Yeah.
I do actually love I know I'm a Chevy person, but I love like the '70s Fords with
Uh-oh.
like the extended cab. I know.
You just pissed a whole bunch of Chevy folks off, but you made a lot of Ford folks happy. So,
Yeah. I can be an in between. Like
right?
I
I
love
agree.
Chevys, but then there's also certain Fords, but then there's also
Yeah,
certain Chevys that I hate. Like
right?
it's a love hate,
Yeah. We don't have to commit to just one brand. Awesome. How's your family been? I mean, I feel like, stepdad was kind of what got you into this to begin with. Has your family been supportive? How have they reacted to this career path you've chosen?
They've been really supportive. They're actually really proud of me. I know my mom especially, because she wishes, like in her eyes, that she went and traveled and did more stuff. I think everyone has regrets, and especially with my family, I feel like I'm a little bit living them out of going out of Washington, because I know a lot of us haven't. Um, but it's been amazing, especially my mom, she went to SEMA, and I think my brother's actually coming to SEMA this
Nice.
November. And
Yay.
so, yes, I'm so excited.
Very cool. So
But
they're
it's
super
definitely,
supportive, super proud.
yeah, and then getting to involve them and show them and everything that I do. especially my little nephew. I love it when he like comes to my work or gets to see me in the garage. I'm like, I'm gonna make you into a mechanic. I don't care if you want to be one or not.
How old is he?
Uh, he's like 3, but
Aw. Hey, you
okay.
gotta start him young. Gotta start him
Yeah.
young. That's awesome, whether he wants it or not.
Yeah.
All right, so final question for the night, because our hour is almost up already, which just means that we are going to have to talk more in real life when you come back out and visit again. But
Yes.
final question for the night is, if you had the opportunity to speak to the younger you or another little girl like you out there, or even your little nephew, another little boy out there, who wants to do what you're doing, what would you tell them?
I would probably say follow your passion. Don't let anyone stop you from doing what you want to do. But also go out and find opportunities. I know for me, I've gotten a lot of opportunities, but I wouldn't have done it without going and looking and talking to people.
Yeah.
And I would say do whatever you can. If it's going to different shops, if it's even if you're a teenager or a little kid,
Yeah.
go and find and go talk to people who you want to do, whatever you want to do with your life. Just going and talking and reaching out.
I love that. And I hear you say that you've had a lot of opportunities come your way. The reality is that you took advantage of those opportunities. Right? We all get opportunities all day long. It's whether we choose to take advantage of them or not. And you have continuously taken advantage of every opportunity that you see. And I think without a doubt, that is why I know 100% that you are going to be amazingly successful throughout the rest of your career and your life. And I'm it's an honor to know you, and I really appreciate our friendship, and I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me for an hour on this little shindig thing that we do. I can't believe we haven't had you on earlier, but God, time flies, doesn't it?
I know.
Excuse me.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly. So thank you for coming on, spending some time with me. Everybody who's been watching, thank you guys all so much for hanging out with us for this last hour. Make sure you go check her out on her page, show her some love, show her some support, cheer her on her journey. You can watch this over again if you'd like to in my IGTV tab. You can watch all of the past episodes. We're getting close to our 90th episode. How crazy is that? So
Oh,
definitely go check those all out as well. And I want to again thank our sponsor, Drive Time, for helping make this happen. Definitely appreciate them showing their support for women in the trades and their dedication to bringing more women into the trades through this program. So thank you all for coming and tuning in and hanging out with me for the evening. Again, thank you, Alex. And until I see you guys next week for another Trades Lady Happy Hour, be good to yourself, be good to one another, and have a good night.
bye.
Thanks, Alex. Bye.